You're listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, the show that invites you into the lives of people who make up the Ultra family. Here's your host for these conversations, Larry Ryan.
Thanks, MJ. Today is a classic twofer. I'm speaking to an Ohana couple who regularly show up at the American races either to crew or to race. It's a bunny. It's a lime. It's Iron Fan. Today, listener, you are getting a 2-for-1 Ohana guest episode. These two humans have combined for a total of 32 Ultraman race experiences as either athlete or crew. As such, if you have attended an Ultraman race in the USA, you have probably met these two, whether you knew it or not. And that is because they are often disguised while crewing. Joining me today from Pennsburg, Pennsylvania, it's Mary and Randy Latza. Welcome, guys.
Hey, hi. It's great to see you.
Great to have you guys here. Hi, Randy.
I'm not in costume, believe it or not. I was going to throw on my Stitch hat, but I was like, let's just keep it calm and professional for once.
For once,
yeah.
For the people that are watching on YouTube, yes, they're a married couple. Yes, they're in the same house, but I have them on separate computers just for the fact that it makes it way easier for me to edit the podcast later when I'm doing the audio because I have separate audio tracks for them. So it's not like they're split up and they're in different places. They're both in Pennsburg, Pennsylvania. Guys, where is Pennsburg in relation to like maybe a bigger city in Pennsylvania or a nearby state that we might recognize?
I always tell everyone we're about an hour north of Philadelphia. That's the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah. And I think, most people are going to know Philadelphia if they're from the States. And what sort of things, Mary, is the town known for? Is it like a university town, manufacturing? What's it known for? How big is it? What's it known for?
A very small town. It's a borough, I believe. If you drove through the town, you would hit 3 towns right in a row. East Greenville, Pennsburg, Red Hill. I would say East Greenville is known for the Blommer Chocolate Factory.
Oh, okay. Well, you also have Hershey in Pennsylvania, too.
Yep. It's just like Hershey because it smells like chocolate all the time around here.
Okay. And what is it that you guys do there? What are your jobs? What are your careers that you guys are in? Randy, let's take you first on that one.
It was a big joke with me when people I work with hear about what I did last weekend. They're always just like, what? And when you people hear about what I do for a living, it's also as shocking. I'm an accountant. I'm mild manual controller of a manufacturing company. I do spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff all day.
That sounds very exciting. So you're one of those Excel geeks. You know all the different ways of putting in formulas?
No. The funny thing is, I know what I can do for my job. You don't know how many times I ask her, like, "Hey, I want to do this really complex thing in Excel," and she's like, "You mean hit these 3 buttons and make it work?" Like it's not complex at all. But to me, it is. The only time that really comes out the nerddom is like we can get into my training or what you want to call training later. But I always have spreadsheets for like races and analysis and things like that. That's about the extent of it. I'm like the most atypical accountant out there. I'm far from it, but it's what I decided I was doing senior year of high school. And I couldn't take a 5th year of college. I had to be 4 years and out. And that's what my major was. So that's where I wound up.
Oh, well, it seems to have worked out for you. You've got the life to be able to go out and do these big races and these events. So it's obviously, fits into your lifestyle very well.
Yeah, exactly. And where I am, I've been here. I took a little break. We went to Virginia for a few years, but I've been here over 20 years now with the same company. And it just works really well for our lifestyle, like you said.
Yeah. And Mary, how about you? What do you do?
So I like to tell people that I save babies. I've been in the pharmaceutical industry for almost 25 years now. It'll come up on 25 years in February. And in my time there, the majority of those 25 years, 22 of them have been in vaccines. So right on the manufacturing floor, making vaccines, supported the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. And currently my team is responsible for the release of the rotavirus vaccine for babies.
Mm.
So, and we also my team also does a couple of the vial vaccines. So my site is the main vaccine manufacturing site in the United States for Merck. So,
oh, wow. Okay.
But yeah, that's what I've been doing my whole career.
Now, going back into your guys' athletic careers, you were both in athletics when you were in college. Is that how you two met?
Yep.
Same school, different schools?
We both we both went to the same college, and so he was a year ahead of me, and so we both did cross country, indoor, and outdoor track. And it was a very small team at the time, so we spent a lot of time together.
Okay. And which one of you was the better college athlete?
Randy.
What were your main events when you were running track, other than obviously some distance because you did cross country as well? Did you have some specialty events that you did, Randy?
Hybrids, I think is the right word. So like I've been running since a week before my 5th birthday. So I'm coming up on 45 years of running.
Okay.
But high school, as I started to grow a little bit, I've always had some pretty good hops. So they put me in the high jump. And then we started hurdling, which means you're doing the steeplechase when you get to college. And then at some point we decided, let's see how many more you can do. So I ended up doing the pentathlon indoors, the decathlon outdoors, and it was a colossal failure. Like I have no upper body strength. So the weight events were not good at all,
Yeah.
But I did do it. And then the only event I didn't do in college was the hammer throw. I literally did every event they offered, indoor, outdoor, from the 100 all the way up to the 10K, jumping everything. The pole vault, I can high jump higher than I can pole vault, and that's not a stretch. But to this day, I'm like, I wish they just let me throw the hammer once, because just to say I did every single one. But I mean, we even did the race walk, and the way our conference was, anyone could do the race walk. So like I was literally teaching my fellow teammates, because I had seen it done because I'd been around for so long. So my coach is like, well, can you teach them how to do it? So we put like 10 guys in a race walk just to get some points for our conference heat. But yeah, like did it all.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. I coach track at the high school that I work at. So I appreciate a guy who's willing to go out and get some points for the team.
Yeah. Do what you got to do. Yeah.
Mary, how about you? Did you have a specialty event?
So I would say, I mean, I was a multi-eventer as well. But believe it or not, my two best events in college were the javelin and the 1500. I was more of a mid-distance. I didn't really like the long distance events. In high school, the mile was my best. But, I did everything, that we joke, my nieces, I'm the youngest of 7. So I have nieces who are almost as old as me, and their kids are starting to do track. And so we went to all their track meets this season.
Oh yeah.
And, they're, exhausted after having done a race. And I'm like, yeah, just wait. You just wait until you do the 2 mile and you're sitting collapsed on the infield, and coach walks over to you and says, I need you for the 4x4.
You need you to do a relay. Yeah, always. Yeah. Yeah, I do the same thing to my athletes now. They don't like it.
So yeah, I really enjoyed doing all of the different events. It was fun. And that's how Randy and I met, because small team, we didn't even have a track in college. Our college did not have a track surface.
Okay.
So we would go do intervals. There was one road that was painted with 100-meter markers. We would go over to the local high school and practice. And so, on Tuesdays and Thursdays were the days we stayed late to do throwing and multi-events. And, they would save our dinners from the cafeteria, because it was a very small school. So dinner was when dinner was. And if you were an athlete and couldn't make dinner, they saved 2 plates for you.
Okay.
And so, I mean, Randy was kind of like my coach for the high jump when the coach wasn't there. So I was not good at the high jump.
What school was this?
Allentown College of St. Francis DeSales. It's now called DeSales University.
Okay. And has it grown in size since you were there, or is it still the same size?
It's a bit bigger, but I mean, not giant.
Right.
It's still a smaller Division III school. Yeah.
When you guys are in college and you're doing these track events, obviously lots of running and stuff like that. Was there any swimming at this point? Which one of you was the first one to jump into triathlon?
I was a lifeguard through college. And so our swim manager required all of the lifeguards to swim a mile a week. And the first season I lifeguarded, I realized that it was probably a bad idea to have ice cream every break. And instead of doing that, I would swim on my breaks. So we would get a break every hour for 15 minutes. And so, on the weekends, I would go in and I would swim for 10 minutes on that break. So it was nice. And I actually got into triathlon. I graduated college in 99, and my first triathlon was in 2000.
And was that one of the shorter distances, the way people do?
It was a sprint, yeah. Where I was working over the summer, one of the people I worked with, we would run, and then another person I worked with that we're still friends with to this day was a cyclist. And he was like, "Hey, I want you to come out and ride with me." And immediately I jumped to, well, I may as well do a triathlon now, because if I'm going to do all these things, I can swim. So that was as quick as it was.
Yeah. And how about you, Randy? Was it a while after you saw Mary's success in triathlon and you're like, well, I can do that too then? Or how did you get into it?
So literally, I tell people I saw Julie Moss crawl across the finish line when I was like 5 years old. I saw it on ABC and said, I'm going to do that someday. Okay. It wasn't until 20 years later. Well, you could argue, and you will argue, that I still can't swim, but I couldn't swim. After college, I just kept running, and then I hurt my knee a little bit just doing side. I could tell you exactly when and where. I was jumping over a 6-foot bar and just tweaked my knee a little bit. And I'm like, all right, well, I got to stay in shape. So I started riding, and I can't just go out for a bike ride to go out for a bike ride. I needed a goal. So I signed up for a fundraiser with the goal of riding a century. And once I finished that, I'm like, well, now it's time to learn how to swim. It's time to do this. And I just went in order. I went sprint, Olympic, half, full. Yeah. And I was done. I did our first Ironman in 2005, and I got the M. Dot tattoo on the calf, and I was never doing another Ironman. And it was 6 years before I did another one. Yeah. And then.
So what brought you back after the 6-year break?
I wanted to beat her.
And since then, if I have the number right, you've completed 16 Ironman races. Is that correct?
Yeah, I joke with people as in that one 6 years later, I'm like in the middle of it, and something just snapped, and I'm like, what's next? And then I just started piling them on. I've done back-to-back. I've done 3 weekends in a row of fulls. We got involved in Ultraman back-to-back, I don't know. It just went crazy from there. Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm going to stop, but 20 is pretty close, and that's a nice round number. I was saying, that's kind of the way I went with Ultraman. I'm not saying I'm done. If they were to put one in a great location, if Ottawa, from an Ironman side, Ottawa's the week after Lake Placid. Right. I don't have that much vacation. If it was a month later, I would do Ottawa, just somewhere new, a cool location, something like that. But I'm not fast, but I can suffer, and my pace is what my pace is, and I can just keep going. So it's, I'm never in doubt that I did, when St. George was the World Championships one year, I did that one. Oh, yeah. And I trained like I've never trained before, because I was kind of concerned about that. But once I get off the bike, I can walk a 6-hour marathon. And if you've made the bike cut off, you'll basically have 6 hours. So I'm never really concerned about finishing any of them. Yeah. That's where Mary and I differ. She has time goals and power goals and this and that. And I'm like, put on my costume, give me a beer in the middle of the run, and we're good to go. And Mary's already done, back at the hotel. So.
Well, completing three in consecutive weekends, how did you plan that out? What were the three races that you did? They must have been fairly close together.
So it was right after we learned about Ultraman. And I didn't have what I felt was a good enough resume to get me in at the time. So at the time, you had to do an iron distance within 16 or 18 months of the race you wanted to do. So if I want to do the 2015 Ultraman, I signed this up for August. At the time, in 2012, they had the one-time only Ironman in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
I went to that and volunteered. My plan was to do New York City, ride my bike from that venue up to Mont-Tremblant, and race Mont-Tremblant the next weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Well, then they didn't have New York City the second year. So I ended up, a buddy of mine, Eric Suro, did his own, he called it Suro Man. He did his own homegrown triathlon, like swam the local pool, biked in the area, and then ran. And so I'm like, that's a good idea. So what I did is I did my own in my area. The next weekend I did Tremblant. The next weekend I did Louisville.
Okay.
So it was three within 15 days. And the worst part was really driving from Tremblant and 2 days later getting the car and driving to Louisville, because It was about 8 hours from Mont-Tremblant and then like another 10 to Louisville, I think. But I had someone with me both times, Mary, and then my brother drove with me to Louisville. But it was long. And actually Tremblant to this day is still my PR, that race, after doing one the weekend before.
That's
okay.
I
just needed to warm up. I don't know.
That's great. Yeah. And Mary, you've done about a dozen or so Ironmans. Is that correct?
Yes. I always forget the number, but yeah, I was on like the every 3-year plan at first. So I, 2005, 2008, 2011, 2014, I was signed up to do Ironman Switzerland, and in the end of 2013, my dad passed. And so I was like, okay, well, I got to be there for my mom. And then, the next year my mom had some health issues. And so I don't think I did another one until 15 or 16. I went back to Lake Placid. And then I went back again in 2018. Lake Placid is just super convenient because it's drivable for us.
Right.
But yeah, and I went back. I actually had my one and only DNF at Lake Placid. I had just a ridiculous couple of weeks leading up to the race at work. And we had a big audit for a project that I was the main person leading all of the conversations. And I wound up having to stay an extra day, and we couldn't go up to Lake Placid as early as I wanted to. And it was just a mess going into it. And I came out of the swim, and I had a bad swim, not a terrible swim, but I got beat up in the swim, which can happen in Lake Placid.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, I had a bad start to the day. And I spent, I got up and over, if you know the Lake Placid course, you climb for about 8 miles or so, and then you go downhill, the big keen descent. I got down the descent, and then I spent the next 30 miles convinced myself not to quit. And I ran into Randy on the hills that, Papa Bear coming back into town, and I just lost it. And Randy's like, "You're done. It's not safe for you to be out here." So I turned in my chip at the end of the bike. We went out and drank beer the rest of the day, cheered everybody on. But then on the drive home from Lake Placid, I signed up for Tremblant.
Oh, yeah.
Which was about a month later. And I had a really great race up there that year. So I kind of redeemed myself. I still don't love the DNF, but it was the right thing to do on the day. But yeah, since then, we moved back to Pennsylvania, and then COVID hit, and all kinds of things. My first Ultraman was 2017 though. So, that was, there was some arm twisting there. So Randy did it in 2015 in Florida. And then we crewed for him, and I met Simon Shuri there for the first time. And I got to spend, 10 to 12 hours with this complete stranger in a car for, the weekend.
Yeah.
10 to 12 plus.
Yeah. And then we all crewed for Simon the second year, and then they all said to me, "Hey, well, you know the rules, right?" And so my first Ultraman was 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I wasn't going to do it again. I really wasn't. I was never going to do Ultraman again. And then COVID hit, and I needed a goal. I did an Ironman. We did Waco because we were supposed to do Tremblant, and then Canada wasn't back open again. And then we couldn't defer anymore, so they let us defer to Waco. And so we did Waco coming out of COVID, and then I was like, well, I did Ultraman, and I raised funds for my niece, my great niece, who was diagnosed with stiff person syndrome at like 18 months old. And I'm like, okay, that's it. That's my goal.
Okay.
I partnered with their foundation. It's a rare disease, so to find a charity that dedicates especially for it was hard. And so I did some of my homework. I found a foundation, and like almost all of their funds go directly to I think it's Johns Hopkins, but I could be wrong. Yeah, she was the youngest person ever diagnosed with it. And I mean, you wouldn't know if you met her. She looks like a normal kid. She's super duper skinny. She's like a little beanpole. And I think, oh goodness, I should know how old she is. I think she's going to be 6 in July. So she's had it now almost her whole life. But every month she gets IV infusions of immunoglobulin, and that along with some other medicines is the only treatment.
And this is the same disease that Celine Dion has? Is that right?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
And so, yeah, I partnered up and we did some fundraising. Her dad, my nephew-in-law, if you want to, he is the superintendent of a golf course up in Portsmouth near Newport, Rhode Island. And so they did a big golf tournament last year. And so, yeah, I mean, I did a big fundraising in 2023 for it because I was doing all those different races. Right. I haven't done a lot in the past year, but if I do another big race again, I would kick off another campaign.
Okay. Yeah. We will pick up that conversation with Mary in just a moment. I want to tell you about an upcoming episode. Have you ever wanted to replace something small in your house and it just gets a little out of control? You go to fix a sweaty toilet tank and you decide just to put in a new toilet, which leads to getting a new sink to match the color and style. And then while you're at it, well, you might as well update the vanity cabinet. At which point, you're kind of pot committed to put in new lights and a mirror. And if you're doing all that, you might as well repaint and put down a new floor. Now, your toilet repair is a full reno with a much bigger bill than you were thinking about. That's what happened to Shane Kent, the guest in my next episode. Here's a brief piece of our conversation that starts off with some training volume, and then he shares the inspiration to start this particular journey.
Thanks, Kath Spencer, for pushing me. 1 day off a month, lots of double days, minimum 20 hours a week of training, building up until last week. Last week was almost 30 hours of training over Saturday, Sunday, and some of Monday.
Yeah, you got some big blocks going right now.
Yeah. I've got some downtime now. Got a few niggles that I got to try to work out. But I suppose the journey to get to this point started after Ultraman. When I finished Ultraman, I've done Kiwi Man, and upon reflection, I always like, what can I do better? And if I could be a better swimmer, I would be a better triathlete. So then I said to myself, well, how can I become a better swimmer? I know I'll swim the English Channel. So that's how this idea formed in my head to swim the English Channel, and then signed up for Arch to Arc,
right,
and eventually got in. And so I signed up back in 2021, but hadn't been able to get in until now. And then, really focusing on trying to swim better.
That is Shane Kent, who I will be speaking to in my next episode. And now, back to Mary as she explains why she decided to go all in for Kona.
2023, I signed up for Tremblant again, and that was the first year that was going to be the second year that women and men were separate.
Mm-hmm.
And there was more women for tri slots. And I may be better at Excel, right? But I also have my own set of spreadsheets that I keep, right? And I had a spreadsheet with all of the qualifying times and the average times, and if there was this many Kona slots, what place would I have needed to be for like 5 or 6 years of results.
Right.
And I had a pretty good feeling that provided I had like a good day and I didn't have a bad day, that I was going to qualify. But I was like, I don't want to just qualify because I don't want people to say, oh, well, she just went because of, the extra slots. So right. I said to my coach, I'm like, all right, let's do this. I want you to push me. I did the math. I'm like, man, if I get some running legs, I have a chance, and so, yeah, I trained really well. I did, before Penn State I did Penn State that year, and I had a really good race. Then I did Tremblant, and I was fourth. I never imagined I'd get on the podium, and that was the first time I finally broke 4 in the marathon. I think I ran like a 3:46 or something. And I was just like on cloud 9 the whole day. Mm-hmm. I think Randy said to me at one point, "You're fourth," and I was trying to talk to him about something. And he's like, "Just run." And then leading up to that, I had said, I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Like, if I pull off Kona, it's only 6 weeks between Kona and Ultraman Worlds. And I will never be in better shape ever in my life. Right, yeah. So I had actually reached out to Cheryl and I said, hey, if I do this, I didn't know if they were still accepting applications for that year, right? I didn't know. And she was like, she kind of said, yeah, you let me know. And I think it was the day after Tremblant, I got an email from her with just 2 words, I'm waiting. And so, yeah, I decided to do Ultraman Worlds that year. I knew the swim was going to be a challenge for me because I get seasick. In hindsight, I should have just worn some kind of patch or something because I just did everything in my power not to get sick in the water.
Right.
But yeah, it was crazy. That's how I wound up doing Ultraman 3 times. Is I just, and Hawaii was as beautiful as I expected it to be and as hard as I expected it to be.
Well, you're talking about the Ironman Worlds, and both of you have gone to Ironman Worlds in Kona and Nice, I believe. Is that correct between the two of you?
He hasn't gone to Kona yet.
Oh, okay.
I went to both so far.
St. George.
I'm doing Nice this year, and I have my legacy for Kona next year.
Okay. Now, with that in mind, and now that they've come back, we just briefly kind of touched on the idea of them having extra slots for the women, and now coming back to Kona combined. What are each of your thoughts on that scenario? As a racing couple, do we like it? Or it sounds like maybe Mary is more of I like the purist. I want to earn my spot. And
I do, but I do think, here's the way I explain it to people. I don't know that I would have had the year I had and gotten the motivation to lead me to be on the podium and do as well as I did. I PR'd by like over an hour that year in Tremblant. I don't know that I would have had that motivation if the carrot weren't there in front of me.
Right.
Like most years I'm like, bah, like I'll never go to Kona because you have to be top 1 or 2. So like there is something to be said about increasing women's participation by increasing the number of slots, right? I mean, I'm going to race Ironman no matter what, but the other thing is, I do like the split, right? Like I told you about what that one day I had a bad race. It's because I got beat up by all the dudes in the swim.
Right.
Like I got dunked and my feet pulled and, so I'll tell you, it was a crazy vibe when I did Kona with all women. Like everybody was supportive. There was nobody like getting mad because I passed them and trying to like stay on my wheel and pass me back. Like there was none of that. And everybody on the run course was just, lifting each other up. But we were all out there to compete, and all of the races leading up to that, the women's slots didn't roll, at least maybe not until like maybe later. Right. But when I did Waco, there was we stayed at Waco because I had placed, I think I was 9th in my age group at Waco. And Randy's like, we better stay because you might go. He's like, you got to go to roll down. And like nobody let any slots roll. But his rolled to go to Nice go to St. George. Sorry.
Okay.
So I like the split format, but I completely appreciate that Hawaii can't handle it. I did Nice because I got the opportunity to go. I got the email invite from Ironman like, hey, would you like to go? And I was like, mate, why not? It was beautiful, but it was not Kona.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like the split format, but I can also appreciate that Kona can't handle that many people on 2 separate days. So, I wish there could be a way to be equitable, but not and have more women's slots.
Randy, what do you think about this? I mean, it doesn't affect you as much as far as the slots go.
Not the slots, but I'm slower. So, I mean, at a given race, there's generally more women. I will say there's generally more women passing me on the run because they're smarter than we are as guys. Typical guys goes balls to the wall on the bike, and then they get to the run and they've cramped up. They don't have legs. So I see a ton more men walking on the marathon than girls. So without the girls, you don't have the ego kick of getting passed multiple times in a marathon. But I will say, obviously, I wasn't the competitor at either of them, but I was with Mary in Kona and then again in Nice. And the vibe in Kona the first year of the split was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I'm not going to do my legacy, but I do not have the desire that I had 4 years ago to do this. And then They keep changing the rules on me. It was like coming out of COVID, they're like, oh, you just have to do this. And then since there were no races for a while, they're like, oh, we changed the rules again. You've got to do a full next year and the year that you're doing the race. Okay, well, we go to Lake Placid every year anyway, so I'll just sign up for that. There's no more additional expense. I'm literally in Lake Placid 2 days before the race at the pub, and they're like, hey, we changed the rules again. Why don't you do? And it was going to be the 25th anniversary of Lake Placid. So for those of us already signed up, they gave us a little discount to sign up for next year. If I got an email from Ironman 2 days earlier, I wouldn't have signed up. But then Mike Riley was coming back and they were having pro relays and stuff. So it was really cool. But again, they just keep changing the rules. So like this year I have to do a half, which we're going to Mont-Tremblant. But again, I have a reputation. So we're going to Wisconsin in September and they have a special double where you do the half on Saturday, you do the full on Sunday.
Okay.
And then a week later, I'm going to Nice to do the World Championships. That was not in the cards. I got offered a spot. So I'm like, well, I did St. George. I'm doing Kona. It'd be kind of cool to say you did all 3 locations.
Yeah.
I was offered a spot. They offered some of the legacy people, again, because a lot of people don't want to go to France. At least a lot of the Americans don't, and that's why they're rolling. And so they offered me a spot a couple of years ago, and I had no desire to go. Plus, it was their first year, and I don't like doing any race the first year, just for logistics. And then Mary did it last year. And I was like, you know what? It's a cool kind of town. The course was, like she said, the bike seems awesome. The pictures look really cool. I'm like, we'll do it. So.
And it's certainly parts of it are very challenging for the bike. I'm guessing you're not going to get the chance to practice that in Pennsylvania, what we're going to face in Nice.
Yeah. So I will say that I knew that there was no chance that I could practice here.
Yeah.
There's a climb out by us. It's kind of north of Reading called Hawk Mountain. Even that is not good enough. So I will tell you this. It was August into September of last year, and every weekend I was on the trainer doing the Nice course on FulGaz.
Oh yeah.
I would say I did all of the climbing 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And then once I did the whole course. And I will like my coach at one point said to me, he's like, do you really think it's going to take you? Like, I think it took me over 8 hours. That day I did the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. That's what it took me. I think I was just 7:15 or so on race day, but yeah, I mean, it's no joke over there. And
the descending you can't prepare for on a trainer. It can't. And I watched the video a couple of times just to get a sense, but no, it's I will say I'm a good descender, but that was next level because it was hairpin turns and stuff. So it was, I felt like I was a little bit Tour de France kind of thing, but but then you can't cross the center line. Definitely lends itself to the European riders who train in those kind of mountainous regions all the time.
Yeah, but it was fun.
It's fun when you survive.
Yeah. I was, aggressive, but yet not reckless.
Right. And Randy, what's your approach to that? Particularly maybe, the climb and how you're preparing for that, and also the descents. Like, are you confident descender?
Yeah, when I did Ultraman Worlds and when St. George was Ironman World Championships, it was a lot of trainer work. And similar to what Mary said, like I was doing all the hills, I was doing the course in breakouts, and then eventually on the longer days doing almost the full thing. But yeah, you can't practice a descent like that. Like literally, that's when I would take a bathroom break. Oh, well, we're descending for 10 miles now. I'm going to go get a new bottle and go to the restroom. And my guy's just coasting down the hill the whole time. I won't say I'm bad or good at descending. I'm obviously a lot heavier than Mary, so I can go a little faster.
But are you comfortable with that speed on that kind of course? Well, no, that's
the other thing. Yeah, what am I thinking? Hold on. We need to rewind here. So several years ago, going down the big descent in Lake Placid, I started to get a wheel wobble. And I'm talking, my wheel went maybe, if your center line is here, probably a foot to a foot and a half left and right, wobbling. And I'm like, it was fresh pavement. Like, okay, at least I shouldn't get too much road rash. This is going to hurt. I was able to pull it in and survive. Since then, on 3 different bikes and 3 different body weights, more sizes, I've had it happen on that hill. So it's not like, oh, it was your aero bar. I've had a road bike. I've had it happen on 2 different tri bikes in anywhere from 185 to 225 pounds. So 35 is about my limit these days. Like sometimes if it's a nicer section, I might go up to 40, but like, I don't even need to look at the speedometer. Like I can just feel and I'll start slowing down. I like that. Yep. I'm doing 35 because I just miles. That's just where it is. So, but I don't mind taking a 90-degree turn at 35. It's just, I won't go like the hairpins, I'm not as concerned. I can handle my bike well, as long as it's not wet or anything, but like, I'm not, doing 100 kilometers an hour down a hill or anything like that. Like that's just, So on that course, on the Nice course, that's going to hurt a little bit, because I won't be making up as much time as some other people.
Right.
And again, going back to the split, women are generally a little smarter than the men and a little safer. So that is in the back of my mind. What are these idiot age groupers going to do flying down a hill thinking they're in Tour de France when they have no, because stereotypes are there for a reason. Triathletes can't handle bikes, and that's a course like that does scare me a little bit dealing with other triathletes.
Yeah.
Like Mary said, her coworker that we're still friends with, we were taught how to ride by a cyclist.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many races where like the amount, especially like shorter ones, where Mary especially will just make up time on people by doing nothing other than knowing how to corner and how to come out of it the right way compared to like a triathlete.
Right.
And it's, yeah. And I feel like it's only got, I think, unfortunately, I feel like Zwift has made it worse because, and hey, I don't mind it either with the way traffic is getting and stuff like that. I completely understand it. Yeah. But if triathletes can't handle their bike to begin with, and then all they're doing is riding on a trainer until race day, it's, it's not
scary.
Great.
Yeah. Well, let's jump up to the Ultraman distance here. This is 515 podcast. Mary, you told us about the years that you've raced in Ultraman. Randy, can you tell us about what were the years and the races that you did at Ultraman as an athlete?
Back when Spartans weren't even a thing yet, there was no Tough Mudder. There was a race called the Death Race and another race called Winter Death. And it was like the beginning of extreme, where you would like literally you'd go run through the woods unmarked, chop 3 cords of wood, go crawl through a stream with a refrigerator on your back. In Winter Death, one year they started by doing hot yoga, and then the race director took all their clothes and throw them outside into a giant puddle. And he's like, "Oh, we're done." And you had to go try and find your clothes in 20-degree weather. And then the race started an hour ago, but you didn't realize it. So a guy that was in my triathlon club who did all this stuff and was amazing at it, his name's Mark Jones. He started what we called the extreme team as part of our triathlon club. And we did stuff like that where we just do crazy stuff and chop wood and go off road and all this. And they had all these different levels and awards. And I have no upper body strength. I'm a runner. I can't do any of these. But one of the higher levels was this thing called the Ultraman World Championships. And I'm looking at all these other things. I could never do the world's toughest, which is like the 24-hour Tough Mudder World Championship. I'm like, I can never do anything like that. I'm like, I can't swim 10K, but I might be able to. And I can do the run and the bike. How do I get into this race? And so that's why I did the triple in 2013. So I did Ultraman in 2015.
Florida.
And I in Florida. And then I was going to do Worlds that year, like the same year. And I'm like, that's probably too soon. And then the guys who went 1, 2, 3 in Florida that year, all DNF'd Worlds. And these guys literally beat me by a day. Like their final time was faster than my day 1 and day 2 time. And these guys all DNF'd. And I was just like, whoa, what am I getting myself into? I don't know. What year did I finally do Worlds? 2018, I think.
17 you have listed here.
17. Okay. We will never agree on training because my training is unlike anything anyone else in the world does. So of course, Mary said I didn't train enough for Worlds. See, look at, there's the face. But I trained more than I had trained for any other event previously, but it wasn't enough. And basically what happened is during the swim, when I finished, I had in my mind what time. I'm a 5-hour swimmer at Ultraman. All 4 of them have been between 4:50 and 5:05. And I really needed to be like 4:30 at the latest in order to finish that bike, because unfortunately I had done the bike virtually several times. So I had checkpoints all along the way. I had some issues with my kayakers, not to disparage them, but we didn't see eye to eye on a couple things.
Right.
And when I got done on the water, it was like right around 5, but it was slower than I needed it to be. And I was mentally just fried from everything that went on. So we got me on the bike, and then my first checkpoint that was a really hot day. It was like 90, that climb coming off the water.
Yeah.
It was 90 degrees. And I had swallowed some water. So like that Pacific salt water is very salty. It's a lot saltier than the Atlantic. And like my throat was kind of shot, so I'm not really drinking much. And you're going up that climb to the traffic light up in, what's that, Captain Cook. and I was just done. And so every checkpoint I had, I was further and further behind. And I wound up calling it somewhere in the last 25 miles when you're doing I got to the black sand beach and started the climb up to volcanoes, but eventually I called it. And I was like, because I can keep riding for 2 more hours, but I'm not going to make the time. So why bother?
Right.
The next day, we might have been the last year that you still went over the Kahalas.
It was.
And and it was brutally windy, rainy, all kinds of weather. I complained. So I wasn't planning on doing it, but I wanted to do the descent from Volcano. So I'm like, I'm doing the descent. This is awesome. And we could do the whole red road back then. So I'm like, all right, I'll do the descent, get down because that road's gorgeous along the ocean. The end of the red road, I'm going to get in the van and call it a day. My van wasn't there. Okay. So the next time I see them, they just give me food and we go. I'm like, all right, I'll get to Hilo and I'll stop. They literally threw stuff at me, closed the door to the van and drove away. So I couldn't stop. Next time I go to stop, the van's not there. And we played this game. And then eventually going up one of the climbs after Hilo, one of the bridges, they had decided, okay, they're tired of my stuff. If he wants to quit, we'll just let him quit. And so one of the, not the singing bridge, but one of the bridges later, I hit it and both my tires flattened at the same time. Thankfully, they were just on the other side of the bridge. So I'm walking my bike and Tom Regal's crewing with us and he was assuming I'm done. I'm like, no, I got 2 flats. And he's like, what? I'm like, both. We had spare tires. Yeah. So they switched those out.
And I'm like, don't you dare use your brakes because we had carbon brakes on and the spares were aluminum. And I was like, you just can't use your brakes until we get back to you.
No. And what made it worse was I'm not a fan of discs or deep rims or anything like that. So I was running a regular front wheel and a carbon rear wheel. So now they've switched. So now I have a carbon front wheel with regular brakes, an aluminum back wheel with carbon brakes, and it's coming up to all those gulches. And Mary's like, don't touch your brakes. And I'm like, so eventually we got into, where does Billy live? Waimea. And we've been to Hawaii enough. I know the area very well. And I was like, hey, we're going to go up here. You're going to make a right. There's going to be a strip mall. I want that Snickers better still be there. I want a Coke and I want my jacket. And they're like, wow, what's going on? We're going to fit. So we get up and over the Kahalas and the wind was insane. It was blowing me. At the time, I was probably around 200 pounds. You throw on the bike, you're probably talking 230 with gear and everything. And I'm getting blown from the shoulder to the yellow line. And I was like, I can't imagine what the smaller girls are dealing with. And then it started raining and then it's dark. And I finally said, hey, we had 5-6 miles to go. And I called it. And I was like, it's not safe. I'm not in the race anymore. Why bother? And they're like, no, you could make it. Well, I start going again. And on that course, you had a 1 mile straight downhill to the stop sign. And it's pouring so bad, I can't see the next block. And there's a video of the finish line that year. And you can't see the clock. It's raining so hard. I'm like, oh yeah, I was 3 miles away at that point. So then I just start cruising and I come over into the park for the finish line. And it's we're at 12 hours. So it's pitch black and I can see the clock. And all I can see is 11:05, and I can't see what that last digit is. So I just and it's raining, it's blurry. I just put my head down and go. And I think I finished at 11:53. Yeah, that sounds about right. And to this day, that was, 7-8 years ago, that was the most epic bike ride of my life. And I say, I'm kind of glad I quit early the day before, because if I had kept riding uphill for the next 2 hours, I probably wouldn't have had the energy to finish that.
Yeah.
And then the third day I bailed at the marathon mark. I was like, it had gotten up to 90 degrees. And I kind of feel like you only have so many. When I had to Florida, it was in the 90s for the run. And I'm like, I feel like you only have so many of those in your body. Yeah. And so I'm like, I'll come back. We got in the car, we drove up the road, and the temperature went up 10 degrees in the next 3 miles. And I'm like, no, that was a good choice. And then I went back in 21, maybe, Mare? Or you, whoever's got the notes. I think it was 21.
22,
and
was it?
22? Because it was the year before me. Yeah.
Yeah. I trained a lot more, and like I spent more time getting like losing some weight, and I trained a lot more. And an interesting thing was my swim was actually slower. And I hit a spot with before you turn into the final bay, and we were not moving. And like I was watching the coral, I was moving side to side quite a bit, but I was not going forward at all. Yeah. And I had actually just reached a point of like peace. And I was just kind of like, well, if I finish this, maybe this race just isn't for me. Like maybe I just cannot do this. And like I wasn't upset or anything. I was just kind of like, it is what it is. You know, I'm not a great swimmer. And we crossed the finish line or got out of the water, and I was like, let's go. And there's an awesome picture of I'm standing on one leg. Joan Kim, who I poached from someone else's team, is shoving a banana in my mouth. Mary's putting sunscreen on me. I've got 1 foot off the ground as Tom's putting a sock on me. I had the fastest T1 of any, not that they keep track of that, but I did, looking at everyone's swim and bike times. I had the fastest T1 of anyone that day. And I passed 2 people in transition and then another person the second I got on the bike. And I was like, this is great. And then I didn't have as many time checks this time because it didn't go as well the first time. So I was 5 minutes ahead at my first time check, never looked again until I got to Black Sand Beach. And I was like, okay, you have this much time to get to the top of the hill. Just keep pedaling. And then it was, and the only time on day 2, I only thought about quitting once because I was like, you came here to finish day 1. You already did that. This is great. And I was like, no, you can't. You can't.
You got to go now.
Yeah. And then like day 3, sometimes I have stomach issues during the run of Ironman, and that's what happened during that. And I was cruising. It was really hot that year. Like there's a picture of one of the guys. Oh, the one guy that won that year was the guy I think who was going for sub 23 maybe. Or 26, I forget what the number was he was scoring, maybe even 20, some obnoxious time. He threw down like a 5:40 first mile. Like when they said go, we're all looking at him and he was already out of view. But it was really hot. Like the first set of pictures they have when the daylight came up, everyone was drenched. And I didn't cramp, but I couldn't keep anything down. And so we tried different things. And then the one crew actually wanted, Mary put the call out, hey, can anyone help? And the one crew actually came back with like some ginger tabs. And Mary's like, just take these. And it worked. And then unbeknownst to my crew, which they figured out eventually, I was like, well, if I get to the half marathon at this, and I was good, I'm like, well, if I get to 20 at this time, I can literally walk the next 30 miles, like just jogging periodically, and I'll break the cutoff. And so that was it. Yeah. Like it's stupid, but like I walked so much, it was insane. And I wasn't even as sore the next day as like a marathon. Mm-hmm. No, we hit one section with like maybe like 5 miles to go, and I saw one of my friends further up. She wasn't having a good day, and I threw down like a 6:30 at mile 47. My body hurt after that, but Mary's like, okay, like they had signs like, are you done yet? Like they wanted to be out of the car because unlike the other places where you can leave your bike behind, your bike's in the car.
Yeah.
And my bike's kind of long, especially with the aero bar. So they keep hitting their head and stuff. And they were offering it to locals if they anyone wanted to buy it. So they were ready to be out of the car. And Mary's just like, no, you started running, get to the finish line. We're done with this. It was awesome. And it was cool too, because that was the year that Dee Dee and Leanda were both racing. And I've known Leanda on social media for quite some time. She coached one of my friends down in Miami for a while. Yeah. And then Dee Dee, I was the shoulder incident, if you've heard that story. If not, Randy's not allowed in kayaks anymore. That was the year that Dee Dee won Florida. And so like we kind of bonded, and I always check for her at races and stuff. So it was amazing to be able to be in the race with the two of them as well. Yeah. And that was so freaking cool.
2 fantastic triathletes there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You're talking about the people that you've met. And you guys have kind of formed, Rat Pack 2.0 out of Florida. There's a group of you now that if one of you's racing, the others are crewing, and then every once in a while someone new comes in, and it's just kind of expanded and grown. Can you tell us a little bit about how this crew of yours has kind of expanded out of Florida?
When you get into this and you've been to the meetings, and you can never duplicate your first time when you're sitting there and they're reading the resumes and you were like, what have I gotten myself into? Because, this guy's climbed Mount Everest, and Billy Edwards was there, and he's like, the triathlon coach for like the Air Force. I think he's flown fighters. They're just one guy in the race had a bullet lodged in his body. And we're sitting there like, I drink and wear costumes. And this year or last year, I was at a table with someone in that position, and their family, as they're reading off the resumes, are just like, what are we doing here? I'm like, you'll be fine. Yeah. Well, when we first got into it, we had no clue what we were doing. And, it's 4 or 5 days of vacation. And to ask someone to give up their vacation to come down and crew for you is a little difficult. Mary had no choice. And I was going through my friends, and I knew Simon Shuri. He lived in Nantucket at the time, and he has an atypical job. So I knew he might be able to. I knew him from a different internet. We were on the MACA X team, which Chris McCormack at the time had an international triathlon team. So that's how I met Simon. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, can you come down? And he didn't know what he was getting into either. And so, like Mary said, the next year we crewed for Simon along with some other MACA X friends. And then we're at the banquet. Everyone's like, hey, Mary, you next. And she didn't want to, but she did. And so when she raced, she wanted to have a female on the team. So she brought our friend Cynthia on. And it's like day 2 in the car. And I'm like, Cynthia, you know the rules of this team. And she's like, I know. So she did it the next year. We crewed for her. And her husband is smarter than all of us. He has no desire to do any of these. He'll crew all day, but he's not racing any of these. Right. So then Simon and I did it again. And it was supposed to be.
Hold on, we got to tell the story about that first time, though, with Cynthia. We had to abandon her on day 3 because our older dog, who was not old at the time.
Oh my God. Yes.
She went on a walkabout from our dog sitter the second night. And I got a panicked call from our dog sitter in Virginia. We had just finished day 2. And I had a GPS tracker on her because she had tried to run away a previous time on the dog sitter because she was slippery like that. But the problem was she lived in a rural area, and so it lost battery really fast. And we hadn't yet figured out that you needed to have it on Wi-Fi. Oh, yeah. So she got a panic call like, hey, she got out on me. I slipped. It's the winter in Virginia. And I can't find her. And so we drove, Randy drove most of it. I drove like an hour. We got a rental car and drove from Florida to Virginia. It was like 14 hours or so. And by the time we were almost back, and we got the call that they found her, that she had warmed up to this random person. She was like 5 or so miles away from where she had gone, and she went onto this person's porch, but their dogs weren't dog friendly. And so, yeah, we went back, we picked her up. She was snoozing. Like she just had the best, but we had to abandon Cynthia. And
it's the end of
Ryan
day 2.
Toner and Jeremy Howard stepped in to crew for her on the run.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. So Cynthia got 2 penalties on day 2. And the first one I will debate to this day. I don't agree with it. And this was in Chuck. Chuck was the race director at the time. Yeah. And even at the banquet, he and I had a discussion about it. And I just said, Chuck, I plan on being in this sport forever. So I'm going to walk away because we're friends on social media. You see, I can go there really quickly. So I was like, but her second penalty, it was very foggy that day. And a lot of, especially the internationals, were violating every rule in the book with driving. And locals were not happy. And I had said something to Jen, and Jen calls me, and I was about to go into detail. And she's like, no, your girl has 2 penalties. You need to talk to her now, because they were in quick succession. And she told me the first one, and then she tells me that she blew a stop sign. It is one where you come up to an intersection, you can see a mile, and it's a T, and you can see a mile in either direction. On a weekend ride, you're not stopping. Yeah. Like totally. Well, I said, just don't tell me it was the intersection that Toner was sitting at. Ryan Toner is literally sitting there as an official with a clipboard, checking people off as they stop and proceed through the intersection. And Cynthia didn't stop. Yeah. So the next day, he is running with her to get her to the finish line. That's how I explain to people what this means.
Right.
Like, he literally gave her a penalty the day before, and then the next day he's on her crew.
Yeah.
But so with that, your the point of your question. So then now Simon and I are racing against each other. Well, how's this crew thing going to work? So I went with an all-female crew, and I took, previous to that, 2 years before that, they had been running a camp in December on the Ultraman Florida course to just give people training and show the course and all that. I forget what the reason was, but Jen McVeigh couldn't run it that year, so we stepped in. So that was the year Cynthia raced, Rich Reed raced, Michelle Williamson was racing, and I forget who else was there, but Mary had attended camp the previous year, and it was such a positive impact on her race between meeting people and just getting out there and training with everyone. They're like, hey, we'll run the camp for you. And we bonded with all those people. So then when I needed a crew, I called up Michelle Williamson. I'm like, I want an all-female crew. Can you come down? So she hasn't left since the year she raced.
Right.
And we're all ingrained. And then when Mary did it again, we brought a local girl up from here who is kind of interested, kind of not interested, our friend Steph. So we're like, you need to come down and you need to see it. And then we brought Toner in to join us as well. Mm-hmm. But it's just one of those things, like, so Mary went out to Arizona and crewed for Keller one year because Team Kabam could not be together. So Mary took the place. Who'd you take? Billy's place, I think, for that one? Because
I forget who. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we're all integrated.
Yeah.
You know, and now the last couple of years, Mary and I have been in 2020, I was staff, and that's when I rolled the kayak, and that was a whole issue. And in 2021, we were both staff. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, but like, we really like the crewing aspect of it.
Yeah.
So we told Jen, hey, we'd prefer to be on a crew next year, but we're a package deal. You know, we're not it's just too logistically insane to not be on the same team. So we crewed for two different Filipino athletes, one last year and now one this year. And now they're both racing worlds, and we're crewing for both of them on separate teams.
Oh, so you are splitting up.
Because they both asked, and like,
yeah. Are they sharing accommodations in Hawaii? The two Filipino athletes? That would have been smart.
We suggested it, but they weren't like compatible. So we were like, hey, we'll do whatever you want. Yeah. You know. Yeah, that's how it grew, though. You know, I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like organic. Like, you keep adding these people in. And you know what? The people we met along the way, they kind of just stay, right? And it's this weird, and it's just this weird family that you see once a year, but you're back to like, it was like yesterday. Yeah. That you just saw each other, right? Yeah, and it's just, and you really get into some, it's not easy to race and be there. So, you're there for the worst of people and their worst times. I hopped in the year I crewed for Steve in Arizona. Yeah. Crewing for the fastest athlete is much different than crewing for
the slowest or even the mid-pack. Yeah.
It's more high pressure, you're planning things out, but our days were quicker. Yeah, but our days were shorter.
Yeah.
Right? Our days were much shorter.
Yeah.
And so we finished, I think Steve ran 2-3 somethings in Arizona that year. So it was like 6:30 and we were finished. And Jamie Harris was racing Arizona that year, and she was having a rough weekend. Mm-hmm. And we all stayed actually at the same house. So Steve and all of us, and Jamie Harris and all of her crew. Chuck Kemeny was her coach. Mm-hmm. And Chuck actually pulled me aside the night before the run and said, "Hey, I know you're going to be done early tomorrow. Do you think you'd be willing to come back out and help with Jamie if we need fresh faces?"
Yeah.
And so we actually all went back out, including Steve.
Yeah.
So they drove me out.
we found where they were on the course, and then I hopped out, and I think I ran the last 14 with her that year.
Yeah.
And I just swapped out, and her crew went back into the van, and I was a fresh face, and got her through.
That's great.
So it's just like that. It's like each other, and it's just a big family, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Hello, listener. I love getting your feedback and suggestions for the podcast. Keep them coming at 515ultraman@gmail.com. For those that want to help me promote the show, I suggest that you tell a friend to listen to. Word of mouth is a great way for podcasts to get new listeners. And if you don't mind publishing your feelings, a free way to support the show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on your podcast app. It's a chance to tell me what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it too. Finally, if you're so inclined, you can show your appreciation for my work by clicking the support link at the bottom of the show notes to go to my Buy Me a Coffee page. Thanks for all of your feedback and support. Now back to the show. Well, Randy, you're kind of well known for your costumes at these events. I got to ask you, how many do you have at this point? Do you ever repeat them? And do you guys have enough space in your house for them, or are you like paying for a storage locker for these things?
Yeah, with Mary's on the other line here, so I don't know how I'm going to answer this. No, I have a fair amount, and it got worse because last fall I had signed up for a loop race where you do a 5K every hour on the hour. And I got a free entry from somewhere, and right after I registered, I get an email from the race director, and he goes, 24 hours is a lot of time for costume changes. And I'm like, I have no idea who this race director is, but he obviously knows who I am. So at the time, I did not have 24 costumes that I could run in. I mean, I have that many costumes, but not that I could actually run a 5K in. Now I can say that I do, on top of all of my other costumes. So to say I probably have 50 different ones that I could wear, yeah, that's probably not an exaggeration. Wow. When we moved from Pennsylvania to Virginia a couple of years ago, I had the tailgate of my truck had a giant Tupperware on it that was filled with costumes, and that was just one set. And then there's a whole other area, which is like the Iron Fan, the outfit I wear for Ironman. I have a whole thing with that. And I'm just going room to room. Mary's in the living room, and I'd come from the basement with like 3 in my hand. And then I'd pop out of this closet with 2 more. And then I'd come from this other room with another one. And then I was like, hey, I'm missing this, this, and this. And she's like, I swear I didn't throw any out. And I'm like, where would I have hidden those? And then I go into another room, pick up a cupboard, and there's like, oh, there's a bag, and there's 3 more in there. Now they're all in this house. I have 2 closets that I've pretty much taken over. Most of them are on hangers, and yeah, appropriate now.
Treating them well. What's your thought on these, Mary? How many costumes do you have?
Almost 0. I have a couple. I have a couple of costumes that I've picked up for Halloween here and there. Costumes aren't really my thing. We did do costumes pretty early on, though. We did this 4-mile race at the New Jersey shore for Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
And it was back right when I graduated college. So both of us were running and pretty fast at the time. Mm-hmm. And here we are in matching M&M costumes, running sub-7s probably, right, in this 4-mile race. And all these people are looking at us like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Right. And we're beating the people that didn't have costumes on. And like these things were like sales, But no, I mean, costumes really aren't my thing. I will dress up and, do the fun stuff for Ultraman because, a lot of times that's what gets you through. You see these people out in something ridiculous in the middle of the course and all you have to do is laugh, right?
Yeah.
That is Randy's thing. When he crewed for me for the first Florida Ultraman, I didn't really want like crazy costumes. I didn't really not want costumes. It's just, I didn't want that to be the thing. Like for me, I was racing. So Randy wore like a tux with a top hat for the kayak on day one, and my friend Cynthia wore like a flapper dress. So it was fun.
Yeah. So Randy, where did the inspiration come from, and what should we be expecting at future races? What costumes do you have in the bin that haven't been displayed yet?
Well, it's so I DNF that 24-hour one after like 12 hours. I turned my ankle. You started at 6 o'clock at night, so you never got a good look at the course. And I turned my ankle a couple times, and then the third time I turned it, actually Ryan Toner was crewing for me because I had crewed for him for an ultra the previous year. And we were changing my socks, and we both looked at my foot and we're like, oh, it's a little worse than I thought it was. So we called it a day. So they want me to come back because I literally set up a canopy, and I had all 24 costumes hanging up. So when I got done, you didn't really have to think about I had a clipboard with the list, but you didn't really have to think about what was next.
Right.
And they were all just like, well, can we see the other ones? And I'm like, no, you can't see them. How this all started, I blame my parents. I was a clown for probably the first 10 years of my life for Halloween. And it wasn't an awful costume, but you had to like stuff newspaper down the legs to like make them look fatter and stuff. And I think that just scarred me so much that I've turned into this. I'm sure some therapist has something to say about that, but that's, and it's funny because I don't even go crazy at Halloween. Like I do it year round. So like come Halloween, I'm just like, yeah, I'll just throw something on, and, it's easily for me to find something.
Well, from all of these people that you have raced with or you've crewed for and, doing the races yourselves, I would like to ask each of you to share with the listener who is perhaps just contemplating this for the first time, what is some of your best crewing advice or tricks that you believe are important in getting people to the finish line each day? And as an athlete, what is the best advice that you can give someone, whether that's in training or racing, because people listening to the podcast, a lot of them are doing it to get these tips and to learn more about the races themselves. So, Mary, let's go with you first. What's a crewing one, and what's one for the athlete? What would you give as some tips?
Yeah, we've crewed a lot. So I think being organized, it kind of seems silly, but being organized is probably number one, right? And just track your athlete. They'll go over at any race, but I always like to, even if nothing's going wrong, I like to track what the athlete has eaten. During the race, even if it's just high level, because if stuff starts to go sideways, then you have an idea of how many calories they've had and like what might have gone wrong.
Right.
We, this past Florida, we had some trouble getting our athlete to have as many calories as they needed, and so it became very meticulous, the tracking, just to try to know if they were actually endangering themselves, right? At some point we were like, I didn't want to have to pull, but I was like, you need to eat something. We need to get something in, So, for me, that's what it is. Cause food is your life during those races. And, like Randy said, he's had some issues here and there. I've been very fortunate, because I am very boring and I stick to my nutrition, and that's what I take. Yeah. I use Infinite, and I take it for 3 days straight, and it's really boring, and people are like, oh, aren't you tired of that? And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't make my stomach upset. So having to go to plan A, B, C, D, E, F, and G with an athlete is stressful, both for the athlete and for the crew.
Right.
Because you're trying to figure out like, well, what could they, what could work?
Yeah.
So that's my crew advice.
And sometimes the athletes haven't come in with their plan at all. I've crewed for people that don't come in with any nutrition plan. It's like, I don't know, we'll go to Walmart and pick up some food before the race. And, it's like.
Yeah. Famous last words, right?
Yeah. And what about as an athlete? What would be a tip that you would give someone that's going to be racing?
Try not to let little setbacks ruin the day. Because it's a long 3 days. And if you're a perfectionist or if you're like me and you like to look at your numbers, if let's say the bike shop doesn't put your pedals back on correctly and your power numbers are off, you know what, whatever,
Yeah.
it's, yeah, I mean, I think just trust your training and, trust your crew. I think that's the other thing. Like, don't, obviously we've had some crews go sideways, right? We've seen crews go sideways and you're like, oh man. But for the most part, most of the crews are out there and they're doing their best. So like listen to your crew and just try not to let the little setbacks kind of like throw you for a loop.
Yeah. Randy, how about you? What's your best crewing tip?
My first Ultraman, Mary and Simon were in the kitchen for 3 hours making rotisserie chicken wraps because that was my plan. I didn't eat a single one the entire weekend and they existed on them. So like I had planned A through D and none of that is what we wound up eating. You got to have stuff in the van and you also need to force it on your athlete at times.
Right.
I'm not hungry. I don't want this. Hey, try this. I don't want it. Just put it in your mouth. You can spit it out if you don't like it. Oh, that was really good. Can we do that now? An hour later, I don't like that anymore. You got to have options.
Right.
And there's a lot of times they can't think anymore. You need to tell them what they need to be doing. The whole eating thing, like, oh, I only eat this much for an Ironman. I'm fine. Yeah, but try and get up again and do it the next day. Like what you do on day, and this is for kind of crew and athlete, day one prepares you for day 2 and day 3. Yeah. And if you don't, it doesn't matter if you like it or not, you got to eat dinner after the race on day 1, maybe 2 dinners. Because if you don't and you're skimping, you might even get halfway through day 2, but by day 3, you're done. And like recovery, whether it's massage, whatever, but eating when you finish these things, getting enough calories in, especially the first day, as much as you can the second day. Because also on a run, you can't consume as many calories. You've got to be as close to topped off as possible. You start day 2 or day 3 in the hole, or you start day 2 in the hole, forget day 3. Right. And as far as strictly the athlete, just like kind of like what she said, when you're out there, especially as long as I am, like I was 11 and a half hours all 3 days my first year. Stuff can go wrong. Stuff can go great. Don't dwell on it. I mean, you kind of dwell on the great stuff, but like it's going to pass. You might feel miserable. It's going to go away. It's raining. Well, sometimes it can rain all 12 hours, but just compartmentalize. We obviously like to suffer or we wouldn't be doing this stuff. Just, hey, this sucks. Or if you got a flat, okay, it's changed. Keep going. It's over. You're done. Just move on. Don't let whatever happen. Or like she was saying, oh, my swim wasn't great. Well, you know what? You're at 50K into a marathon, into a double marathon now. Who cares what happened on the swim? Right. Just, but also embrace it. Your crew, the other crews, like it's not all work. It's a little bit of fun. That's like, sometimes it's great. Like this year, so many people finished we didn't see them, but I think in the last 20 minutes, 5 athletes finished. Like you're all out there together, taking it in and, enjoying the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, as we are recording this, we are in June, but this episode's going to be coming out the day of the start of another Ultraman race. And this would have been Steve Keller's 3rd race. I know that you had some things to say online and social media earlier. What are your thoughts on your friend Steve Keller and what he's been meaning to this community for such a long time? We're talking about the friends you've met. What do you think about how that has gone for Steve and will he be coming back?
I think the biggest word is it's just disappointing as a whole, like for everyone involved. It, regardless of what side of it you're on, whether it was appropriate, inappropriate, action should have been taken, shouldn't have been taken. We're a niche sport. We're a niche event in a niche sport. And for all of a sudden, all these headlines to be out there for not celebrating winners or, Dee, or I'm sorry, I forget the girl's name who won this year and set all the course records, who won Canada. Like that's what you want your focus to be. Yeah, that's what you want your focus to be on. And instead we're discussing rule violations or not rule violations. And on top of that, it happened to like with the exception of maybe Armando, you couldn't find a nicer person, a more positive person promoting the sport, helping everyone else. And it just, not the greatest situation. And I think all parties probably could have handled it better. I'll leave it at that. If you're friends with me on social media, it was handled other ways also. But as to whether he'll be back in official Ultraman events, I would say yes, but I'd say it depends which events we're talking about.
Yeah, I know he's still coaching athletes, right, that want to do the event. So,
Still
obviously he's
promoting
going to be around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve is such a great guy. He's competitive, right? So just like all of us, right? I'm sure, I have crewed for him. So, he means business when he wants to win, right? But yeah, I was always so excited for what he was trying to do to, just get the word out about Ultraman, and, try to get people interested. And a lot of people are trying to look and say, well, what's next after Ironman and what else can I do? And there's other events out there, there's the extreme ones. But, not those are hard to get into too, right? And so Ultraman in some cases is like the next reachable level, right? Because you can get in. There's in the United States, right? There's the 2,
3,
right? At least for now, right? There's the 2. And so yeah, he's a great guy. I like I said, I've crewed for him. I've been around him in races when he was crewing for people, and so just disappointed.
Yeah. Well, looking ahead for you guys, you said you're both going to go and crew at the Worlds this year. What are your racing plans coming up? Whether it's we know about the World Championships in Ironman, but are there any Ultraman races in your guys' future?
Not at the moment. No Ultraman for me. Like I said, I might, if there would be one in like East Coast, Northeast, maybe that was on a course that was really interesting to me. Maybe. For me, Worlds was like I had a good race and I did well. So I'm happy. I love to go crew and help people, and we're gonna go to Nice, and I'm gonna look at the calendar and see what else is out there in the fall. I might have a low key year this year because we're doing Tremblant next weekend. And then we'll see. I think I'm going to do Ironman Lake Placid next July. And who knows, maybe I'll pull something out and then Randy and I can do Kona together. So
there you go. All right. That's looking ahead. How about you, Randy? Is there another Ultraman race for your future?
I'm slightly intrigued by Van's race in Mexico, not quite enough to sign up for it. What I said is it would kind of like what Mary said, it would take, I've been telling people for years, like it would take a new location, somewhere that's interesting to me. And then they announced Van's race. And I'm like, oh, not quite, but you're getting closer. Like if they were to put one on in Costa Rica or something, I'd be like, I'm in. So I kind of got screwed over. I mentioned before, like the whole legacy thing. Like my plan was do Kona with my legacy, did Ultraman Worlds. And I'm not saying I wouldn't do any of this anymore, but like I was kind of ready to take a step back and I have to keep doing it because of the whole Ironman thing. So never say never, but Worlds, I don't think I would do again. I was so pissed at DNF. I didn't want to ever have to do that swim a second time. I certainly don't want to have to do it a third time. Yeah, no real plans to compete in an Ultraman anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you both for joining me, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to tell us about all the people that you know in the Ultraman community and sharing your advice and thoughts and telling us about the times you've raced and crewed. It's what these stories are all about. So thank you guys for taking the time and joining me on the podcast.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Larry.
Hey, if you liked what you heard today, please tell a friend and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'd appreciate it if you'd rate and review the show while you're there. Drop the names of the people you think we should interview, and we'll get in touch with them and make that happen. Thank you for listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, a production of 55 Enterprises. Now really, go subscribe now before you forget.